Yeah, Ant-Man and the Wasp, man. I mean, it took us a while, the schedule conflicts, the work schedule, it's just hard to, travel and record these reviews every week, but we finally met after a 1 month long break, which wasn't a break at all. I mean, it was a break from the channel, but we're back. We've been watching movies for the last month and a half, or however, whenever it was that we last recorded the video. But Ant-Man and the Wasp, man, has to be one of my, what's the word? Most anticipated sequels of all time, so to speak, because I love the first movie. As anybody who knows me knows, I've seen it 3 times in cinema when it came out. The first movie was my second movie of the year in 2015, and the Ant-Man and the Wasp, man, seriously, like, such a fun movie. Honestly, I mean, I know it's been a while since we've seen it, but the moment you start watching that movie, you're wondering, where is this thing really set up in in comparison to the rest of MCU? Because you can't really, I mean, you can watch some of these movies.
So at this point, the Infinity War came and went.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Now you're wondering, Ant-Man wasn't in the Infinity War, and now you're like, okay, we kind of knew he wasn't gonna be there. We knew he was gonna get his own movie, and we knew he was gonna get an explanation as to why he wasn't be there, besides the house arrest, which was the explanation given in Infinity War. And you're like, okay, so where is he? Where are
What's
we?
he doing?
Are we doing?
What's he up to? Yeah.
What's happening?
And dude, well, the moment Hank Pym and Hope start, searching for the wife, things start escalating, so to speak. Like, all of a sudden we have these parties involved that we weren't aware of before. They're in on this. They're after Pym.
So flashback to the first to the ending of the first movie, where Hank Pym, he shrunk himself and went to the microverse.
Yeah,
is that what it's called? Yeah.
They call it quantum realm here, but that's basically what it is.
So basically goes into the quantum realm and comes back, which at this point hasn't been done before.
That wasn't Hank Pym though. That was Scott.
Scott, yeah.
Lang, yeah.
Scott, Ant-Man.
Ant-Man, yeah.
So Ant-Man shrunk into the quantum realm and came back, which at this point hasn't happened before. And we knew that Hank Pym's wife, Janet,
she did the same thing, but she never came back.
So now Hank Pym is thinking, and he's like, so if Scott
managed to come back,
maybe she's still alive,
right.
Maybe we can go and find her. And that's what they were basically up to.
For the first half of the movie, almost.
Well, not just for the first half, but also it seems the 2 years in between. Civil War and the start of Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah, I mean,
because that's the timeline that we're talking about. This is roughly 2 years after Civil War, which is the last time we actually saw Scott Lang in action.
Yeah. And listen, the first half of the movie really is focused on Hank Pym and Hope, and I like that aspect because, I mean, like in the first movie, we only got to see like one of their sides, and it was, the tactical training. We know technology. We've been doing this for years. We're trying to save the company. Now they're trying to, save her mother, his wife. And they're up against something that they haven't exactly encountered before, and they're running, all of a sudden, they're gearing up towards something, and all of a sudden this weapons dealer shows in, and he kind of figured out what's happening here, and he wants in on it. But Hank is Hank, and you know what, Michael Douglas, to me, I think this is my favorite of his roles, man. Like, I haven't seen all of his movies, and he's such a great actor, but
he ended up being such a great
to me, he steals the movie. Both movies. Yeah.
Oh yeah, even in the first one, like, alright, so Michael Douglas is gonna be an older Hank Pym, and it's like, okay, but then you watch and it's like, okay, like, I want a little more of this.
Yeah.
It's that good. And in the first half of the movie, like you said, we see a lot of like the father-daughter stuff, them trying to figure out how to go save Hope's mother,
yeah,
Hank's wife, and then you see a lot of technologies they're developing towards that
They're
end.
building something,
They're
and
building something, yeah.
at the same time we have Scott Lang. You know, he's serving his prison sentence.
House
and-
arrest.
Yeah, house arrest, and he's also, you know, helping manage the company he and Michael Pena started. You know, and it's funny watching them interact and trying to run a company and staying away from the, you know, trying to hide away from the feds that they're actually, you know, doing something together, because he's not really supposed to, you know, fraternize with ex-cons or anybody else involved in anything that is criminal activity. And at the same time he's having a great time with his daughter when she visits him. And dude, that first scene that we see them in this movie, playing playing in the, literally in the house fort, because it's in the house and it's a fort. It's just so fun, man. I mean,
the whole movie,
really fun. And then when we see, you know, all of a sudden, you know, they come up against something that they're not really sure what it is, and Hank Pym realizes, he and Hope realize they need Scott Lang's help. And
well, it doesn't really happen that way. More of when Scott, basically,
was it the other way
Hank
around?
and Hope, they build sort of a doorway that enables them to enter the quantum realm. When they power it on, it kind of shuts off, but it stays open long enough for Janet, who's in the quantum realm, to send a message to Scott.
Right. Yeah.
That will help them find her. So basically, Scott, who's a couple of days removed from serving his house arrest sentence,
literally 3 days or something like that,
he basically gets involved in trying to help them, even though he's not supposed to fraternize with the criminals or any superheroes.
Yeah, because according to Sokovia Accords, they're all criminals.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So he has to balance his life, personal life, with his
work life and his criminal
and his
life,
professional life. It just, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's fun. It's when Ant-Man first came out, you had the whole. He kind of took you away from the
rest of the MCU.
Even though it's still tied into it. It was different. It was funny. Same thing we saw in Guardians of the Galaxy. Same thing we saw later on in Doctor Strange. Like, they were doing their own thing.
I say they were still Ragnarok.
They were still tied into the MCU, but they were just on the side. They had their own separate story that's gonna tie in later. And you expected pretty much more of the same from Ant-Man and the Wasp, which is what you got. You got a funny movie. You had a great flick. It's funny. It's entertaining. It's exciting.
There's no plot holes.
No plot holes.
And
they tied everything together, from the villains to the heroes to the way that everything interacts with each other, and the way they tied it on.
The movie was pretty well made. I mean, well developed. And you didn't really see it coming, but once you got to know the villain, you've seen it coming, because...
And Lawrence Fishburne does a great job as Goliath, who's also tied into not just the villain, but also to everything else that was happening with the Pym technologies, from the early stages on. And the way everything ties together, the way, just fun.
And Ghost is such a spectacular villain. To me, it was a breath of fresh air in a way for MCU, because usually villains in the MCU, they're not very well made. They're usually just the opposites, and I'm just
on that end.
Agreed, but as much as
MCU does do their villains good.
They didn't disappoint in this one. That's all I'm trying to say. Because
no, they're not. They added the extra dose of humanity, if you would, to Ghost. You really go into her backstory and you find out what makes her tick, what makes her, well, how she ended up being the Ghost in the first place.
Yeah.
And actually the means and even the ends she would go to actually reverse everything that's happened to her.
Yeah.
And the whole like fathery thing with Lawrence Fishburne that she has going on.
Yep.
The
movie is full of parallels, and it's full of father-daughter stuff. But one thing we can't forget to mention are all the toys that are seen in this movie. Because, I mean, if that's not, you know, if that's not if that's not one of the best product placements for Pez and Hot Wheels, I don't know what is. Okay, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, having seen it in the trailers, you know, you're like, I can't wait to see this on the big screen.
I did see.
But listen, once you see it on the big screen, especially after the first movie, when the Hello Kitty and Little Ant, you know, when they grew and when they were fighting among the Thomas and the Tank Engine and Friends playset and whatever that is, it was just so fun. And seeing that actually happen on the street, in real life, so to speak, and once, like, you know, once he goes gigantic, I mean, it's such an all-around well-made movie and entertaining and fun and wholesome. Dude,
Couldn't agree more.
I can't stop singing praise to the movie, and it's everything that I wanted it to be, and even more, especially once after you've seen Infinity War and then that end credit scene.
Yeah, when you see how Ant-Man and the Wasp ties into the Infinity War and kind of leaves you scratching your head. It's like,
what's gonna happen next? How did they come back from this?
How do you... He's supposed to do something in the next Avengers movie, but how when this happens? It's like, okay.
And to me, it's also, I think, the way, for example, in Doctor Strange, when they're describing the magic that they're using, and when you see some of that happening inside the quantum realm, you can't begin but to wonder and think, like, how is Doctor Strange actually connected to the Ant-Man, because on the quantum level, it ain't really magic. He's just, you know, has these powers that allow him to bend reality in certain ways. Not big ways, but certain ways.
We shall see in the next Avengers. In the meantime, we have a couple of months wait before Captain Marvel comes out.
Yeah, and Aquaman too.
Well, if you're gonna stick to the Marvel, then it's Captain Marvel, and after that, do we get another? Is there anything else? Is it straight to Avengers?
I think it's straight to Avengers next year, man. So
May?
Think so. Yeah, I think so.
Be here soon.
No,
I
don't want to rate.
Why? I mean, we could, you know, it's a good movie. It's 25.
Go watch it.
Easy.
Yeah. Huh? You know what? I'll stick with that.
It's 25. Easy. Go watch. It's a good movie.
Yeah. Until next time, Beige Bros out.